Welcome to JGTCR. I'm Cope, and today we are tuning the GReddy Fugu Z. Let's get into it. This GReddy vehicle is named the Fugu Z, but it would be more aptly named the Fangulo Z, as it is more than happy to screw itself just to spite us. This Z's default setting is to slide. It will step out at any time for any reason, and we just have to suck it up and go along for the ride. The handling is slippery in every sense of the word. We will need the patience of a saint on all inputs just to make this thing stick. The steering can be reasonable, however, it is very sensitive. If we turn too quickly, it equals understeer. If we turn too hard, it equals oversteer. The power is peaky in an annoying way. It does not provide a lot of punch or push power, but it easily breaks traction. The power delivery isn't great. Traction loss is constant, but how we lose traction is not constant. This makes it difficult to commit fully to driving hard. While the brakes slow us down, they lock up easily and send us to the United Nation of understeer. This ploughing of the front end is unpleasant and difficult to recover from. The best approach to braking is modulated and staged braking. Let's collect our time. 7 minutes 44 seconds flat. And now the race tune. We have done our best to iron out the kinks previously mentioned in the factory model, and while they have been minimized, unfortunately some of these traits still remain. The handling is much improved and is now mostly predictable. The steering is good for the most part, but without any front aero or the ability to adjust what's there is a gaping hole in the steering dynamic. The power has increased by 350 odd horsepower, but the overall feel remains the same. It is a lazy and peaky affair on throttle. The power delivery is much better, but it still has that slight feeling of what it once was once we reach its limits. This slight slide effect can come through and shift us just enough to be a problem at the worst of times. It can be managed, but it does take some getting used to. The brakes have improved with less in the way of tail kicking and ploughing under brakes. However, there is still a bit of this present in extreme and extended braking conditions. Just ensure to take it easy on brakes and plan well, and everything is golden. Let's collect our time. 6 minutes 35.7 seconds. And now the drift tune. There really wasn't much needed to get this Z to drift well. In fact, just running comfort hard tires was enough to get great drift out of this chassis. But as many will tell you, round these here parts we gots to tune. The handling does have a twitchy nature to it up front. However, this comes in handy for control when the tail hangs right out. The steering is very attentive and can jolt the car if we are too heavy-handed on steering inputs. So be smooth and calculated to get the best out of the front end. The power is nice and stable right the way through the rev range, and it has enough grunt to dig us out of some pretty deep holes. The power delivery is great all round, but there is that element of too much slippage if we get too close to the edge of maximum traction loss. Overall, this Z handles drift well and is a pleasure to slide once we get used to its nuances. And now it's time for an engine swap. The engine swap in this chassis has definitely diced things up a bit, and it's really hard to tell if it's better or worse. However, it is definitely different. The handling seems a bit sloppier, and there is a more erratic nature to how this GReddy vehicle responds to our inputs. The steering is less likely to understeer than the factory engined model, but it is more likely to snap oversteer and whip us around. The power is actually pretty terrible. It's boggy down low, peaky up high, and has an incredibly nasty spike at 6,000 RPM that will destroy our drive if we do not respect and prepare for it. The power delivery is all over the place. It's lazy down low in the RPM, aggressive up high, and super duper heavy duty aggressive at 6,000 RPM. The brakes seem more leveled off and less likely to kick the tail end under brakes. However, it is much slower to respond and wipe off speed. Let's collect our time. 7 minutes 38.1 seconds. And now the race tune. When completely modified and tuned, this setup is definitely more nimble and maneuverable than the factory engined model. And while it may feel more lazy and laggy, it performs better overall and is easier to control. The handling overall feels quite light and mildly zippy. The steering does have some understeer to it, but it is minimal and performs well in most conditions. The power does have a bipolar nature to it, and keeping it in power band can be a tedious task. But at least the major issue of the spike at 6,000 RPM has been taken care of and is no longer an issue. The power delivery is fairly clean, and any wheel spin that does occur can be easily reeled in with a light lift. The brakes do a fairly decent job, but still have that slight essence of slide to them. This is also accompanied by a slight plow effect, but both of these are manageable. Let's collect our time. 6 minutes 34 seconds flat. Moving on to the drift tune. There is a certain laziness this Z has while drifting that can literally make or break our attempts to drift if we do not account for it. The steering is fine while drifting and guides the car reasonably well, but there is a hefty dose of understeer that rears its ugly head if we make any kind of mistake. The power is great when it's on full boost, but boy is it lazy getting there. We really do need to consider how this Z shifts into the next gear and assure that the revs and speed are adequate for such a move. The power delivery is fairly muddled. While it's in lazy mode, it can be difficult to get this Z to drift and keep it going. When it's at high RPM and peaking, it has the ability to very easily turn us around. That being said, it is considerably easy to manage if we have even the slightest shred of self-control. The sweet spot is mid-high RPM, but it's not always easy to stay in that zone. It takes some adjustment to our style of drift to make this work, and while it drifts well when we get there, it may be a bit too much of a chore for some. And that's all we have for you today, so until next time, keep racing!